Hello everyone! Welcome back to Books of Genghis Khan. I'm Ben, and today I have for you my mid-month check-in for July. It hasn't been my biggest reading month ever, but the quality has been great, so I've been happy with it, and I can't wait to chat about some of these because it's been a really interesting bunch. The first one was Elder Race by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I don't even really want to talk about the genre of this, say the premise. It really pays off to go in completely blind, as I did. I just did not know what to expect. I just want to read everything Tchaikovsky's ever written at this point. And this was a 200-pager, maybe a small novel. I'm not sure what the word count is, if it would count. But this was tremendous. Tchaikovsky was exercising some prose muscles that I didn't know he had, just from reading Shadows of the Aft, mostly. And the actual narrative structure was so important for the read that it was this dual alternating POV structure, first person, and being with either of the two protagonists was so different, and they come from different backgrounds, speak different first languages, and so the actual word choices were so important a lot of the time for the overall impact and the themes of the book. And this one character just cannot feel like he's ever understood based on the concepts that he's translating into this other person's language. And it was so fascinating. I was riveted to the plot. I will say this, though, about the premise. It's like if one of those POVs thinks they're in a fantasy novel and the other POV thinks they're in a sci-fi novel. I'll leave it there, and if that sounds intriguing, I think you'll enjoy this book a lot, because, so thought-provoking, just so many things that might hook you and engage you with this premise and with the characters. It's just unbelievable to me that it is a 200-page standalone. The bang for your buck that you get with a Tchaikovsky novella like this or Ogres is just incredible. Yeah, this was an astounding read for me. Easy 5 stars. Yeah, what a great way to start the month. Since I'm one of the captains in the Spiffbo 9 summer-themed read-along over in the Keymark Discord, I wanted to make sure I got in at least one Spiffbo 9 book this summer, and I saw a lot of people reading this book, so I joined the read-along, and that was Becoming a Druid by Mike Mullman. This is a pretty recent self-pub from a few years ago, in the first book in the Protectors of Prytani series, and there's 2 novels out along with a novella collection, and the author has graciously sent me a gift with all of these hardcovers, and they're beautiful. This is a naked hardcover with a beautiful painting, wraparound painting, and I loved the feel of this as I was reading. But I also did a hybrid with the audiobook, and the audiobook narrator was really superb also. So if you do audios, this will work well for that. But this was such a refreshing, nice surprise for me, because I went in maybe with the wrong kind of expectations. I think I was, just based on the title, Becoming a Druid, the art, and some of the things I'd heard from people who'd already read it, I was thinking it was more of a lighthearted, maybe humor-focused read. And I wasn't even sure if it was more historical fiction or fantasy, because it is set in a version of Britain, but it is thoroughly a fantasy novel. On the first page, the main character, Grami, is doing lots of cool animal transformations, and there's lots of different kind of druidic magic that we see here, and it's very much real within the world of the story. This feels like epic fantasy, and it's also epic fantasy that is dramatic and high stakes and fairly gritty at times. So as you might imagine from the title, it is about a druid apprentice, Grami, who is trying to become a full druid, and you have to kind of get the approval of the druids and pass a final druid quest. And so that makes up the heart of the novel, is this druid quest that is tied to some larger goings-on in the world, as there is this kind of villain rising in the land who is an obsidian mage, this dark mage who uses mind control magic, and the druids as a group are trying to kind of fight against this mage's influence. And so the quest is tied in with that, and we follow Grami the entire time. And one of the real delights of this book was Grami's character. He was very easy to relate to and root for, but frustrating occasions because he could have been a little daft, especially in dealing with other people or in not sensing danger in very dangerous situations. But he's very clever and competent and capable, and he's very kind and has his heart in the right place. He's very honorable in terms of being honor bound to his oaths and the Druid kind of codes of honor. And he has a close connection with nature and animals especially. He's one of the best at doing animal transformations because he can really kind of empathize with animals and commune with them in a way that even most other Druids cannot. So that's his kind of real specialty of magic. And we meet a lot of other Druids along the way, and we find that different Druids have real kind of specialties in the magic or expertise, whether it's knowing the herbs and potions or rune magic or weather magic. And Druids forswear the use of iron, so they don't use metal tools, metal weapons. I think this book is supposed to take place a little bit into the BC times, maybe a few hundred years BC in Britain. So there's lots of metal technology around, but the Druids just use wooden staffs for weapons, but they are really, really adept at using them in combat and for fighting. And there was an absolutely tremendous, dramatic, amazing battle scene in the middle of this book that really got me enraptured in a way I hadn't been up to that point. And a moment just with really somewhat small scale battles that don't involve that many people, just absolutely incredible drama with those. And once I think we had that scene, I was so hooked, and it was just a race to the finish. I definitely enjoyed the beginning parts of this and the setup, but it wasn't until really that middle that it hooked me in and got me so excited to continue the series. But it was, I guess, a little bit light, maybe because the POV protagonist Grommy could be a little sardonic. He had some witty internal monologues and maybe cracking some jokes here and there, but that's just keeping the tone just the tiniest bit light every so often, kind of like how the Dresden Files feels, where even if very dramatic, high-stakes things are happening, just the tone of Dresden's thoughts or dialogue occasionally keeps it a bit light. So I appreciated that here because I do enjoy that. And so it doesn't feel like an overly dark and grim tone, but it's certainly not a humorous romp. I'd say it's dramatic, epic fantasy. And if you at all are interested in spending time with Druids, this is a very new thing for me. And so that aspect just felt so fresh. There's so many new interesting things to do around magic and fighting that I really had never seen before, and I've read a lot of fantasy, so it really felt fresh to me, and I want to continue with these characters' journeys. Man, Mullman got me to care a lot about the side characters who don't have POVs, and I got really attached to a lot of them, and so I am looking forward to just continuing to become more invested in this world and the suite of characters as it opens up a little bit, as I am guessing it will in future books. So, if that sounds at all appealing, give it a try with this beautiful hardcover, the good audio, or pick it up on ebook as well. So this is self-pub that doesn't have too big of a readership yet, but I think would have a very large audience who would really enjoy it. Next, staying in the same general setting of an older Britain, is Stonehenge by Bernard Cornwell. I didn't plan it out this way, but someone wanted to buddy read this with me, and so I said, why not? I love Bernard Cornwell, want to try something different of his, and this was a historical fiction standalone novel that really reads like a fantasy novel. So it takes place in 2000 BC Britain. So becoming a druid, maybe just like 300 BC Britain or so. This is well before that, in the kind of early or middle Bronze Age, and Britain does not have a very large population. It's just different small settlements, and this is basically with almost no metal technology. They use antler picks to dig out things in the ground, and they're using flint blades for weapons. Bronze swords are very rare, but they do exist at this time. But this is Cornwell just completely dreaming up a fictionalized history of how Stonehenge came to be. So we have no surviving evidence of any kind about the actual tribes and societies that built this. So it's speculation in terms of the purpose, why they built it, the actual drama around the creation, sort of the really short-term factors that led to its creation, and the politics between the different tribes that might have been involved with such a large project. And so Cornwell just has a blast creating extremely vivid, distinctive characters. There's a set of three brothers at the heart of this tale, and then various side characters and really amazing female characters that leap off the page throughout that play a large role in their kind of villages as kind of religious figures. But yeah, I was really captivated by the actual story of the building with so little technology for these small tribes to be transporting giant stones that weigh many thousands of pounds and to be lifting them and setting them in place and shaping them. Just the actual drama of the building of it was really cool to see play out, and we got lots of details about maybe how it actually was constructed. And I think because technology was so limited back then, we actually have pretty good guesses about the actual practical realities of how they must have transported the stones and got them into place. So I don't doubt that maybe some of this was somewhat realistic, but the whole drama around the characters in all these different tribes, that is just Cornwell purely inventing that. And yeah, it's easy to, I think, fall in love with the main character, who's just this sensitive and very caring and clever person at the heart of this book. And a lot of bad things happen around him because this is a very brutal time to be alive. And so Cornwell does not hold back. This is a very gritty read. Cornwell can be absolutely vicious. Yeah, so there's a lot of really crazy, dark stuff that happens. One of the villages has a club that they have called a kill child, capital K, capital C. This is the name of this big club that they use to kill children who maybe are crippled or who the tribe can't support or who are slaves or are from a different tribe. Who knows why, but they use this to club kids to death. And so yeah, it can be dark. And if that doesn't appeal to you, I would stay far away from this book. And if you are at all interested in just following a fictional version of the creation of Stonehenge, I doubt you'll find any better novel of it than this. I don't know if others exist, but this was a really engaging novel on just the character level and following this main character over the course of his whole life, basically, this long period of time from before Stonehenge was ever dreamed up to its conception, to its carrying the whole thing out to its completion. So the book follows the whole process and gives you a sense for what might have motivated it, because this society, the people are very religiously superstitious, and Cornwell does a great job just showing you just how their superstitions and their religion is just worked into all aspects of their life, and also just how immersive it was being in this time. I felt all of the real practical necessities of life, and just that these people are struggling to survive on a season-to-season basis, and it was really immersive, and Cornwell just really made me feel like I was living a few thousand years ago. So just his trademark immersive writing, and yeah, it's not going to go down as all-time favorite. You know, if it were a book one of a series, it would be solid. I gave this 4 stars, maybe 4.5 stars, but I often liked spending more time with characters and in a place and with maybe a more sprawling plot. But for a historical fiction standalone, very solid. It had a complete, satisfying story to it, and with lots of surprises along the way. Even though I knew that it was probably going to result in the building of Stonehenge, there was still so much unpredictability and drama around how that played out. So yeah, another really great Bernard Cornwell book under my belt. And just a little peek into what I'm reading now. I have dipped into Fool's Errand by Robin Hobb. That is book 1 of the Tawny Man trilogy. It's been about 4 years since I finished the Farseer trilogy, and man, this is packing an emotional punch at the beginning. Fitz is in his 30s here. It's, right where I am in my own life, and it's that liminal state in life somewhere between youth and middle old age. And man, it is so easy to relate to Fitz here, and but it feels like it's a special read already, and I'm just about a quarter of the way through. So I am so interested to see where this goes, because so far it's been the best kind of slow burn, but I don't really know where things are going. And every little mention of Bingtown or something related to the live ship traders is great. I'm just seeing all those connections. But I also like that we've gotten a lot of refreshers on important things that happened in Farseer that might not be the most exciting for people who are binging the whole series, but for me, it is most welcome. And yeah, it just is seamless falling back in to this style of Realm of the Elderlings book. So yeah, this is going great. Can't wait to continue. Let me know what you've been reading so far this month and what you think of my reads, or if you're excited for any of them to try. And yeah, I'll catch you later.